All right, so this is part of a series where I'm going to gather some data points to show you some of the physics and some of the math behind the calculations that I have for the Star Trek ships. We're going to use the Ramen WarBird, the Galaxy-class starship Type X phaser, and the Jim Kadar fighter ship for this analysis. So one of the first things we want to point out is in order to start this analysis, we need something to, we need a constant. And so my constant is going to be the Type X phaser. I'm going to show you in just a moment the equation, and this is how we got the 65,000 terawatts. It is noted. So the 65,000 terawatt Type X phaser also corresponds with the polaron beam weapons seen with the Jim Kadar. It also corresponds with the heavy disruptor cannon seen on the Cardassian ships as well. And so when you take that data point, we know that 3 shots from the Enterprise would blow up a Jim Kadar ship. We know the Jim Kadar ship uses the polaron beam, which is also 65,000 terawatts. So in order to find out the data point that we need for the Enterprise, we would have to look at a couple different sources. One of those sources is the Star Trek Encyclopedia, Reference Guide to the Future. It says that the WarBird is slightly stronger in firepower, but yet has about the same defensive capabilities as the Enterprise. So the Enterprise and the Ramen Warbird should be almost the same in shields, and we know the shields for this vessel are 1,300,000. It was able to take 20 shots from a Jim Kadar vessel. Jim Kadar vessel's weapons are 65,000 terawatts. So we again can correspond from the original series. When the Warbird attacks the Enterprise, it shoots it 7 times, drops its shields down to 70%. All we need to do is take the 1,300,000 and then divide it by 65, or divide it to 10, and we'll find out that that equals 130,000 terawatts. So that means that the disruptor seen on the Ramen Warbird is 130,000 terawatts. We also know that the Ramen Warbird shields are 1,300,000. So they will be able to gather this data point and get this information was coming from the Enterprise Type X phaser, and then coming from the polaron beam weapon, which is supposed to be the same. And if it's the same, then we know if it hits the ship 20 times, the shields are 1,300,000. And we know that if that's the same for the Enterprise D as for the Warbird, and the Warbird attacks Enterprise B, shoots it 7 times, brings it down to 70%. And then we will be able to find out if we took the ratio of 130,000 and then divide it by 10, we find out that the Warbird's disruptor is 130,000. Now, one thing I will note is that Picard also said that the Warbird was capable of destroying the Enterprise, and Enterprise is a Galaxy-class starship. One of the things I thought was pretty interesting is if you go back to the original series, the original Romulan bird of prey vessel had a cloaking device and had some kind of plasma discharge weapon, which was capable of destroying a ship in 1 shot or even a space station in 1 shot. It means it had incredibly high power output. I thought that was kind of neat. I didn't realize this, and it made a lot of sense. The reason why the Ramen Warbird's weapons were so strong but yet shot so slow is because they are so powerful. And that also explains one of the things I always wondered about with the Ramen ship is why is the ship so incredibly large? I mean, it's something like it's over 1,000,000 kilometers, or I'm sorry, 1,000 kilometers. When the Enterprise is 660, it's literally twice the size. Well, if you're using weapons and those weapons need extremely large power sources, then obviously you would need a bigger ship to deliver those power sources. So the idea of the Ramen Warbird is not only is it using a lot of energy for the cloaking device, but it's also needing a lot more power than other ships would normally be using because the Romulan's technology is not as advanced as the Federation. And so they're having to build bigger ships with bigger power supplies for their bigger weapons. And I thought that was pretty interesting. It's also noted that the Romulan warbird uses a singularity as a power source rather than a warp core.